Welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with Dr. Eric Lopkin. And Dr. Lopkin, we have three biggies in the news this week. We already know what the first one is. It's coronavirus. We got the Democratic primary. I think I have a couple interesting insights. I'm sure you do as well. And again, considering how dire things are, especially with the coronavirus, it's Harvey Weinstein is now considered kind of a lighter subject. But I was a little shocked. I don't feel sorry for him. Do not feel sorry for him. If he did half of what he said, they say he did, good riddance. But the man, I thought he was in his 50s. He's 67, and they gave him a 29, that's a death sentence.
29? I thought it was 23.
Okay, so 23.
Either way, yeah, for him, it's a life sentence. And no, I don't feel sorry for him. He got away with a lot of stuff that they said, they didn't convict him on. In fact, they didn't convict him on the most serious of charges. So had he been convicted on everything that he was charged with, he'd have gone away for even a longer amount of time.
He was a sociopath. He was a creep. And he also was a victim of his own success. He was first of all, I think he grew up probably as a guy who never got women. He's not a particularly attractive person. Let's just be honest, okay? He had this opportunity with all these starlets and blah, 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 the most powerful man in Hollywood. And instead of pursuing a normal route, whatever you want to call it, okay, even having relationships, all that kind of stuff, he was a sociopathic creep.
No, yeah, he was a sleazebag. He was a sleazebag in what he did at work. He was a sleazebag in his private life. This was not a good person. And
how was he a sleazebag in his work? I just don't know. I'm not questioning it.
I have contacts over at the Motion Picture Association, and they had to deal with him on a regular basis. And he treated the people that worked at his company poorly, with no respect. He would abuse them on a regular basis. He would call up the Motion Picture Association demanding that they do things his way, despite the fact that they had rules and regulations that he had to follow. He thought he was above everything. That's
really the crux of the matter, isn't it?
Yes.
He thought he was above everything.
His ego, he thought he could treat women this way and it would never get back to him. Well, he got his comeuppance. And quite frankly, the only thing I'm sorry about with the Weinstein verdict is that he wasn't convicted on everything.
I'm not, because in 90, he'll be 90. It's a life sentence.
It's a life sentence.
Who cares? It's like 1,000 years or 100. It doesn't make a difference. I still think, and I do not feel sorry for him, but I always think of people like falling from grace. Like if someone from the hood does something awful and you go to jail, it's not a good thing, but your lifestyle, he lived like 0.5% of the world of America. I mean, he had money, women, adulation, anything you could ever imagine. And then going from that to a prison cell, maybe even with a roommate eventually, that ain't good.
No, it's not good. But then again, I mean, he brought it on himself. Nobody forced him to do these things. In fact, he was the one forcing people. So he got what he deserved.
Again, I don't feel any sympathy. I just think that it's a complete fall from grace, self-induced. So moving into politics, we have the Democratic primary. Everyone is lining up behind Biden. It looks like Bernie's out. And let me have you comment on something I heard on a show that I really like a lot, Tucker Carlson. And he had, which I love a lot more than Sean Hannity. He's an intellectual guy. He's got some really good insights, even if you're liberal or conservative, it really doesn't make a difference. So on the issue of Bernie, he called him a loser, not for his political ideology, because he says he's the softest revolutionary he's ever heard. So in 2016, did he put up a fight or did he squabble when the DNC screwed him? No, he basically endorsed Hillary and she eventually dissed him. and spoke at the convention. Same thing is happening now. They basically screwed him, kind of, okay, pretty much. Basically forced him out. I don't see him any path to victory. And he's not going out kicking and screaming. I personally think he just loves being, I'm not so sure he really even cares that much about being president. I'm being honest. I think he never worked till he was 43. I mean, he's got a great lifestyle. I mean, who really wants it? He's 78. I think he's fine with the whole thing. I think his Bernie bros are the ones that got dissed, but I think he's fine. He's no problem.
No, I love that term, a soft revolutionary. And I think that's a great description. I hadn't heard that before now. But I think it's true. He is a soft revolutionary. He's in love with the idea of a revolution. But the fact of the matter is, first of all, he's not a Democrat. He was he's an independent that was voted as an independent senator from Vermont. He joined the Democratic Party just before the 2016 election so he could run as a Democrat. He left the Democratic Party right after the 2016 election when he wasn't the candidate, and he rejoined again just before the 2020 election. He's literally a Democrat in name only. And that's one of the reasons the DNC is like, no, we can't put up with this.
No, I think
if he was a real revolutionary, he would have done this as an independent and really tried to change things. No, he tried to change the Democratic Party to fit his views. And I think this is the centrists in the Democratic Party finally going, enough is enough. We have to take things back from the left. And we'll see in a couple of weeks when New York has their primary, because AOC has a couple of primary challengers. We'll see if they can get her out, because if they get her out and they push Bernie to the side, the wacko left contingent to the Democrats might actually be done, and the mainstream Democrats will be able to take control again.
Okay, I agree. They might purge it. But here's a couple issues I have. I don't think it's really that he flip-flopped. He was, in and out. That's a factor, but not the factor. The factor is it would have collapsed the entire Democratic Party if he actually was the nominee, and downstream ballots would have been destroyed. Okay, yes, that's number one.
If Bernie had been at the top of the tickets, the Democrats, especially the DNC, knew full well they would not be able to take the Senate, they would lose the House, and they would lose the White House.
Yes, no question. Now, the big issue about him being a soft revolutionary is that he's not fighting. He's not fighting Biden. He's not going head to head about Biden's corruption, because this is the 11th. This is 11:45 for him. I mean, this is pretty much it. Not just age-wise. I'm talking about this election, and he's just business as usual. He's really hasn't gone after Biden. He's not really in this to win. I think his Bernie bros are getting dissed, and I really believe it. I think he's actually better in his own mind not being. He loves being who he. I mean, who wouldn't like that? You got three. You never worked till you were 43. Now you have 3 houses. You're a multimillionaire. You can go. You're wined and dined by all the other commies out there. And what's wrong? You really want to be president? I mean, and he has no real ideas. Let's be honest. He's a top 1%. Other than that, there's nothing there. Even the New York Times in 2016, I remember the interview, and they were aghast because he had nothing. He didn't think if someone asked him, how are you going to pay for this? He was serious. At least he'd have some not that the math is really going to work out. I get it, right? But at least have some serious approach or strategy. Like, we're going to do this. We're going to do that. He didn't even have that. It was all a charade. Hillary was actually right on that, and she's like, everyone got duped. She was right about that. Any final thoughts?
Yeah. Now, he has no real ideas. He did put out a paper explaining how he was going to pay for his policies. And the paper was even more ridiculous than what Elizabeth Warren put together. Not only would it never cover the costs, some of what he put forth isn't even feasible. He was talking about covering the part of the costs by filing lawsuits against oil companies, except the oil companies didn't break any laws that he knows of. So that would actually cost the government money, not make money. He had no idea what he was doing. And quite frankly, he sold a bill of goods to the Bernie bros. He took their idealism, led them down this path to nowhere, and he conned them good.
Great one. Couldn't have said that better, Dr. Lopkin. He seized on the idealism, especially of the Occupy Wall Street movement of 2010, whatever it was. The momentum was still there. These millennials grew up on this, right? And he used them, and he made millions on them. And I want your final thought. My final thought is he really had no intention of winning the presidency. For him, this was all a spectacle.
I think the spectacle, I don't know if he thought he could win or not, but I don't think he really cared. I think it was more about getting himself out in public and being in front of a microphone and having an audience. Because let's face it, prior to him running in 2016, he was a nothing senator.
He never did it. He was on some shows being but he was nothing. Yeah. I agree with 100% what you're saying. I think if he won, he won. But he's not, unlike a true committed either communist or someone running. Believe me, Dr. Lopkin, he's going to bed at night. He's never slept better in 20 years, meaning he's never been more affluent. He has never had more adulation. He's sleeping like a baby. He's not up at night tossing and turning what could have, should have been. He's good with the whole thing.
I can see that, yeah.
Okay, so moving on to a much more important issue. The coronavirus just got declared by the World Health Organization as a official pandemic.
As a global pandemic, yes.
I think this could be catastrophic.
I don't think it's going to be catastrophic. It's going to be bad, don't get me wrong. But we're already seeing cases in China have already peaked. We're over the peak there. So that was the first place to get hit. So that's a good sign. And I want everybody to remember the word, and of course I'm going to pronounce this wrong, I guarantee it, but it's recessivir. Recessivir is a drug that has been used on people with coronavirus with promising effects. It has already started having progress against it. So we are actually close to having a treatment.
Okay, here's what I think, and that's a good. We don't know the answer to this. If it ebbs in the warm weather, then it's a big bump in the road. If this thing goes on, it's going to create further problems. What is your assessment on that?
Oh, if it goes past the summer, it'll definitely create problems. However, every epidemiologist that I've heard from all believes that this will pretty much be wrapped up in 2 months. So
if that is the case, Dr. Lopkin, if that is the case, then what do you think of it? I think it would be a bump in the road, and I think economically also a bump in the road, because what you're really doing, things would get devastated, but then there'd be some pent-up demand, some increased euphoria, post-summer, mid-summer. I think things are good. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I don't think things are going to be as bad economically as people are thinking, because there are going to be sectors of the economy that are hit hard. Tourism, airlines, things like that. But you're also seeing we have a shortage of the test kit.